All right, nowadays people are much more cognizant of how stress and anxiety impact their lives. They're dealing with more sleepless nights, and it's not something that's enjoyable. Well, that's where today's video sponsor, Real Living Markets, is here to help. They have a natural hemp farm, and they do CBD oil and CBD rub. Now, the CBD oil is something they've come in 3 different strengths. They have 300 milligram, 600 milligram, and extra strength, which is 1200 milligram. It's a little dropper in here. You take the drops, you put it under your tongue, and you will sleep like a baby. And I don't think you can appreciate how good a good night's sleep is and how much that impacts your life. But trust me, when you try it out, you're going to love it. Also, this is the pain relief rub. So if you have something, you get banged up playing sports or something like that, you like to wrestle or do jujitsu on the side, this stuff is going to make you feel a lot better. It's soothing, and you're going to enjoy your life a lot more. To try them out, click the link in the description, Real Living Markets. And if you haven't tried CBD, it is different than THC. You cannot get high off of hemp. This is purely for your life becoming better and more enjoyable by relaxing you, reducing anxiety, and helping you sleep. So, and also making you feel better. So if that sounds interesting to you, click the link in the description, give them a try, and let me know what you think. All right, everybody, Rob Ferretti here. We're going to talk about the 2025 GTD Mustang. Now, that car is taking essentially the internet and Pebble Beach by storm in that it's a super cool looking Mustang, and it's probably one of the most aggressive projects we've seen out of Ford in quite some time. Now, Ford makes cool cars. Sometimes they hit well, sometimes they don't. I still think one of the coolest cars they've made in recent history in the last 30 years is the 2005 and 2006 Ford GT. It was a great car, it performed well, and it was priced right, and it didn't sell well. So like that car, they only sold 1,900 and then 1,600. So 1,900 units in 05 and then 1,600 units in 06. I think they were trying to sell 3,000 or 3,500 units each year. They didn't do it. They cut production there. Now people would love to buy those cars. So it's really weird because once they discontinued it and the prices went down and they couldn't really move them, people are like, oh, these are good. And then the prices just started going to the moon. I have every intention of buying one. I think those are going to be $500,000. Probably even some of them are $500,000 cars, but they're all going to be $500,000 at some point in time because it is such a great driving car. It's super sexy looking. It's super unique, and it hits all the chords. It's a very analog car that you can have a good time with. And I'm one of the few people that's had one over 200 miles an hour. Not one of the few, but most guys that own those cars don't really drive like that. I was out in the desert, 204, zipping through. That was my Super Speeders 3 or something like that. I forget what DVD that was. But I enjoyed the crap out of it. I'm very bummed that I wasn't able to purchase that car and somebody crashed it on me. That's not what we're talking about. This Mustang is the second coolest project that they've undertaken since then. Now, I don't know how well it's going to do. I think they're going to sell all of them. They're saying they're going to sell 1,000 to 2,000 units, which at the mind-boggling sticker price for a Mustang of $300,000 estimated, that's aggressive, right? Because that's more expensive than the Ford GT that they couldn't sell. But then they were able to sell a $600,000 Ford GT and sell them all out, and they sell for about $1 million. So where this fits in the happy medium, the new Ford GT doesn't have the engine it deserves. Not quite Plymouth Prowler, but it doesn't have that V8 that I think everybody would have enjoyed more and would have given that car a little bit more of a desirability factor, especially long term. I think it's like a 458 versus a 488, right? I think that more people are going to prefer a 458 Ferrari over a 488 Ferrari long term because it's got that visceral, naturally aspirated vibe to it. You don't have that with the new twin turbo V6 Ford GT versus an 0506. That's my forecast. You can come back and tell me I'm wrong 20 years from now, but usually I hit these things pretty well. At the end of the day, the limited edition Ford runs are hit and miss. I had a 2000 Cobra R for a couple of years. It was all right. Right, it was the best version of that car that you could get, but there was no air conditioning, and that's sort of what we're looking at here with the GTD, is that they're making something that looks cool, which is number one rule in selling something is make it look cool, right? That's why the Ford GT sold very well, because it looks pretty badass with those big open spaces on the side. But at the end of the day, it's got to also perform and also be fun to drive. So limited numbers, perform, fun to drive, look cool, you crush it. Now, I think Ford did very well with the GT500, right? I think they made a very good car at a very solid price point. This is a different story. This is like uncharted territory for a Mustang. Regardless of inflation, regardless of anything, $300,000 for a Mustang is a lot. And this is going towards like the GT2 RS or GT3 RS or even AMG GTR. That's what they're trying to compete with in this, but it's going to be a little bit more like the Huracan STO from what I'm guessing, in that it's going to be cool on paper, but everyone that buys it, most people are just going to have it as an investment because this is really going to be built as a track rat and it's going to do very good on track. Huge tires up front. Huge tires in the back, lighter weight, carbon fiber body, tons of aero. Tons of aero requires you to drive it pretty fast in order to take advantage of said aero. I don't see a lot of people having that skill level to be able to take advantage of this car and enjoy it the way it should be, designed to be used. And I think that's going to impact it. Now, I think a lot of guys are going to buy it for $300,000 thinking that it's a speculative piece and it'll go up in value. I just see too many cars in that price range that I would rather own before this car. And this is coming from a guy who bought a Cobra R, but I didn't buy it at $60,000. I paid $30,000 for one with a couple of miles, not even a lot of miles, probably had 10,000 miles on it when I bought it. And I drove it. I bought it in California, shipped it to Vegas, and then I did the bull run with Matt Farah, and we drove all the way down to Miami in it. Now, objectively, driving a car without air conditioning through Arizona and Texas and Alabama and Louisiana and everything like that, and Florida in July without air conditioning, not fun. We were saved by the cool seats. And that's sort of where I'm getting to here, is that you're going to have a track-focused car, which looks really cool, objectively, carbon fiber, everything, individual air vents going right into the brake caliper to keep the brakes cool, huge tires, which is going to give you a lot of mechanical grip, but it's also going to be pretty intensive on the steering pressure just because you have these giant tires that you're moving in the front. And it'll be more of a novelty car. It's not going to be a fun long distance car. It's not going to be something you want to be in a lot. And it's really going to shine on the track where it's not going to be used. Now, one of the things that I have with the Cobra R is I sold it because it wasn't so usable. It looks really cool with the front splitter on it, but I took the front splitter off because it vibrated like this. It was very poorly designed. And over 100 miles an hour, the thing was bouncing up and down and it was unsafe. I kept driving it, but it was unsafe. When we took that off, I was able to rocket ship that Cobra R right up to 160 miles an hour. And like, it was quick. Like I was running door to door with a Gallardo, which at the time was 2006 or 7. So first generation Gallardo, but a V10 versus my V8 with Matt Farah in it. I think we held our own and did pretty well right up to about 150 miles an hour. So that's something to be said for it. But the usability on this car is not going to be there. And that's not what people want, right? The cool thing about Porsche with the GT3 RS or the AMG GTR is that it's really like a performance car, but it's also really a street car. And this homologation between a street car / track car, it's like what I did with my Corvette. It's not so usable on the street. Yes, I can drive it on the street, but it's designed for the track. When you start doing cars, it should have roll cages and everything like that. And it really, you're doing yourself a disservice. It looks cool as hell. It's a good car show thing. It's a nice trick, but it's not something that you're going to enjoy driving. And that's sort of what's going to torpedo it, especially with the people buying it are going to be buying it because it looks cool and it's because of what it's capable of, but they're not capable of doing what it's capable of. So, and then it's going to be like, well, this isn't super comfortable to drive and it's really inconvenient with all this stuff that's designed for the track. I can tell people about it, but it's easier to just park it in my garage or go to a car show, tell people about it and not drive it. So, am I buying one? No. And this is one of those things that I see so many other cars. They're pretty much asking for an 05, 06 Ford GT with reasonable miles, 10, 15,000 miles, is what you're almost paying for this car. And yes, this is a newer car, but at the end of the day, I'd take that Ford GT all day long. Would you take a GT3 RS over this? Yes, yes, yeah. Like all the cars that are similarly priced, I would take over this. This still starts its life out as a Mustang and then it's modified. Are you able to do that with the aftermarket, or are you able to take your $70,000 Mustang and throw $220,000 at it and get the same car. Yes, you could throw even less at it, get the same level of performance without the warranty, obviously, but you get the same level of performance for less money. And if you're driving it at the racetrack anyway, you might as well save the $150,000, put $75,000 into a Mustang and make your own. Those are my thoughts. Rob Ferretti. It does look super cool. And I swear, like, I am very happy when manufacturers take a chance on this, but they do have to price them right. I think this car, if it was priced right, maybe $130,000, $150,000, it would be like the Mustang supercar, and it would be much more appealing to me and maybe even interesting to me. But if you can go get a Z07, C8, Z06, or even whatever the new ZR1 ends up being, I think I'm going to be leaning towards that plus $100,000 in my pocket than the Mustang, personally. But, like, don't stop, Ford. Keep coming. Like, keep throwing stuff at me. I'll tell you if I like it or not, but just keep throwing those options out there, because at the end of the day, when we start going hybrid, all these options are going to disappear. So we'll take those big, awesome sounding, awesome looking cars, because one of my biggest problems with cars is that they generally don't make them look cool enough. And in this situation, I mean, you could do that good combination like a GT3 where you make it look cool without going too far to the racetrackness of the car. And I think that's where this is going to be a little bit more impactful. Like the STO, you make the Technica. We need that Technica. We need lots of Technicas from Porsche, from Lamborghini, from Ferrari, you name it, from Ford, from Chevy. Give us a Technica so we can buy it and enjoy it. Thanks for watching. See you next time.